Okay, let's check out why breathing's so important for training. A lot of people who I train with and I work with, they start to ask me, like, why am I doing this breathing drill? They tend to want to skip it, but this is one of the most crucial parts of your training program. The reason for this is that it's essentially sending your body back to kind of a basic organization of how to stabilize your pelvis, your rib cage, lumbo-pelvic hip complex, all of that good stuff. So, when you breathe in, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Most people, especially if you have a desk job or if you're high stress, you're going to lift the shoulders, and then that's going to help the air to fill in the lungs. The thing is, if you ever watch a baby breathe, a baby's actually doing core training when they're breathing. So if you watch how I'm breathing right now in this 90-90 drill, you can see the expansion through here. What that's doing is it's causing a lot of reflexive firing in what you call the intrinsic core. What I mean by intrinsic core is you have your diaphragm right here, you have your pelvic floor, which is in the pelvis, and then you have the transverse abdominis, which I want you to think of the deepest abdominal muscle, which sort of comes to the front, but the transverse abdominis is more of a sheath, so it wraps around all of this. And then you have the deep spinal stabilizers like multifidi, psoas, things like that. They're back here. All right. So what this does is all these muscles together, they create like a bubble. All right. And then when you see the diaphragm being used correctly, so with the diaphragm up here, when the diaphragm is used correctly, it pulls down. So it goes from looking like this, whoops, like this, to then pulling down and then starting looking concave the other way, like that. And what that does is that pushes all the viscera, so like the organs and things like that that are in here, it pushes them, creates this intra-abdominal pressure, and then it pushes out against the transverse abdominis, out against the multifidi, out against the pelvic floor. And what these muscles do is they reflexively push back in to create the pressure because they don't want a lot of the viscera and things moving too much. So when you take that deep breath in, what you're actually doing is you're getting this stabilization system to reflexively fire. This is the reason why babies all of a sudden get their core strong enough to be able to hold themselves upright, um, because they're able to own this core work first. So if we can work on getting this reflexively firing early in the session, a lot of good things happen. You'll start getting more joint centration of the hips, of the thoracic spine. It's really cool sometimes to have someone who's got locked up shoulders, locked up T-spine, have them do a breathing drill, and then watch the range of motion increase pretty drastically. The other thing this is doing is that if someone comes in fight or flight, and this is kind of for my benefit more so than yours, but if someone comes in fight or flight, I want you to think that mentally they are extremely stressed, they are worried about the world. Once you do this breathing pattern, it is essentially a way to get you out of fight or flight. The easiest way to tell if someone's in kind of this like stress response is, like I said, if they're breathing through their neck. If you ever watch, again, if we breathe it back to the babies, doctors start to know if there's a pathology going on in the babies when they're born because they'll be breathing in this stress pattern, and that's a sign that their body is handling a lot of stressors that it needs to get rid of. So breathing is the one tool that we can really use to help get you out of that within our training session. So if you come in and you're in this huge sympathetic tone, you are in fight or flight, you're really going at it, generally people then they don't learn as well, they don't focus as well, a lot of things seem off. The pH of your blood is going to be on the more acidic side, which is then going to inhibit a lot of recovery mechanisms. So we want to get you out of that, and we want to get you ready for the training stimuli. We don't want your body to be overburdened with a lot of stuff. So this sort of helps to reset what's going on up here as well as down here. And then lastly, if we're going to talk about how we're going to progress your core work, if you can't own this bubble, then when you're in a plank, when you're in a dead bug, when you're in all that, I'm a little uncomfortable with how you're going to be stabilizing this lumbo-pelvic hip complex, because all the muscles that I pointed out earlier of that bubble, what they really do is, well, most of them are attached down at the pelvis and also attached up to the rib cage or to the spine of some sort. So if we train like dead bugs, which are going to have more of an emphasis on the obliques and the contralateral stabilization system, they're not going to work as well if the ones underneath of it that are helping hold like that intrinsic stuff together, they're not firing right, the dead bugs aren't going to fire right, side planks aren't going to be right. You know, when you're bracing for that max effort deadlift, that max effort squat, if you don't have this system down, then you're going to be making their low back cranky or your hips cranky, or the stress is going to come somewhere. So this is why breathing is extremely important, and this is also why I always coach it in sessions. Again, you always notice that I usually have a breathing drill to bring someone back. It's usually this 90-90 position. But I have this breathing drill to help bring someone back into this more trainable, natural state. But then we also usually have a corrective drill paired with it that it might help hit your discrepancies in your breathing patterns. So there might be a special drill that if you can't inhalate and really expand through the back, or if you can't get to the stomach, or if you have an asymmetry between the way the rib cage is moving. So this is why even though you'll see this in the beginning of your sessions and you're going to want to skip it, please do not skip it.